Look at that chocolate bundt cake. Oh, I tell you what, this is a yummy, tasty dish. Try this video. You're going to be blown away. Hello. Welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. On this episode, we will be preparing for you a chocolate pound cake. This is a wonderful recipe. It goes way back in my family, and I'm happy to pass it on to you as it was passed on to me. So, I tell you what, let's come in a little closer and we'll go over the ingredients real quick. Now let's go over our ingredients list. For our chocolate pound cake, we will be using 3 sticks of butter, 3 cups of flour, 3 cups of sugar, 1 1/4 cup of milk, 4 large eggs, 4 tablespoons of cocoa, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, 1/2 of a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Now, to prepare this, we're going to be baking. I will be putting this one into a bundt pan. Now, if you wish to use a loaf pan or some other form of pan for your pound cake, that's just fine. Also, this is going to be used, or to do this, we're going to be sifting our ingredients. So you'll want a sifter and a large bowl. In the event you do not have a sifter, a simple strainer, something on this level will work fine. You simply put your dry ingredients in here and tap it on the side like this, and it will sift it through just fine. Okay? Now let's move on to our next step, which is going to be preparing our ingredients. We're going to start by creaming the butter. And for this, I'm going to recommend that you use an electric mixer. If you have one, it is going to make this job much easier. Otherwise, you're going to be using a little bit of arm work, okay? Now the first thing I want to do, I have removed our liquid ingredients to get them out of our way, but I want to take the butter, which has already been softening a little bit, cut it into pats, and put it into my mixing bowl. I want to do this so that it will warm up just a little bit quicker. You don't have to be real neat about this, okay? And this is going to be important in the creaming process because we want to cream the butter and the sugar together, and it will work a lot easier when this is at room temperature. However, do not melt your butter for this. Okay? That won't work. Okay, I've got 3 sticks of butter in my mixing bowl, and I'm going to go ahead and put it on my mixer. Our dry ingredients now need to be combined. So what you're going to need for that is a simple large bowl with a sifter inside of it. Now, as I mentioned before, if you don't have a sifter, you can use a strainer. That'll work fine. Because basically it's the same thing. It's just a wire mesh, and inside of a sifter it has a beater that allows things to move, okay? And some of them have different actions. They work different ways, but they all accomplish the same goal. Now, what I want to do, get a cup here, is I want to put my dry ingredients, not including the sugar, into this. Move the sugar out of our way. Start with a couple cups of that flour. Put in my cocoa. Most of. Put in my baking powder, salt, some more flour over the top, and this just helps to disperse the ingredients better. That's all we're doing here. Just to try to get kind of a pre-mix on our dry ingredients. And the last of the flour. Sift that. My sifter is ancient, okay? It is old. There we have it. There we have our dry mix, ready to go for, we need to remove the eggs from their shells and beat them lightly, okay? So we'll go ahead and do that now. Nobody ever said that I was neat in the kitchen. Now, breaking those yolks. That way the mixture gets at the end of your whisk and it beats quicker. Go. That's all we have to do to that. Before we get started with mixing our ingredients, let's go ahead and grease and flour our bundt pan. Now, I am going to use some gloves. You do not have to do this with gloves, but I find this makes this a whole lot easier when it comes to cleanup. I won't have to wash my hands. Now, there's two ways that you can commonly grease and flour a pan. One is to do what I'm doing here, just simply take a butter stick and rub it up over in the pan, and that's not all we're going to do. We're going to move it around in a moment. The other way is to use lard or shortening. So feel free to use any of those. And what I'm doing is working my way around the pan in each location. I've done the center part. Now I'm doing the bottom of it, which is curved and very difficult to access. Plus all of these little ridges and grooves are hard to get around. Next I'm going to do up on the sides. So just like so. After this, the next thing I want to do is simply rub that around. So, let's get the center part. Each of those narrow areas you want to work the butter deep into real well. You don't want it to stick anywhere. And then up on the sides. Making sure it is well coated. Any spots that aren't well coated will be easily visible after you flour it because the flour simply won't stick in that spot. Now, I believe we have a good coating there. And this is what I mean by easy cleanup. That's all I have to do to get myself cleaned up. Let's move on to flouring this. I want to put a little flour in this, but I want to sprinkle some up around the center part because it is very hard to get to. The remainder of the flour, simply take it and tap it in a circle all the way around it so you coat the entire pan. Alright, now any remaining flour, I'll simply tap out in my sink and I'm finished with this. See there? I have a simple, lovely coating inside of my bundt pan. And this, even on a non-stick pan, you really need to do this because non-stick pans sometimes stick. Okay? So that's the reality of it. Now our butter is starting to get a little warmer, so I'm going to set the mixer. There we go. Let that soften it for a moment. One thing that's helpful when you're working with a mixer is having a rubber or silicone spatula handy, so that you can knock things loose here and there. or to clean the edge of the bowl.
Now slow that down to incorporate our sugar. Gently pour this in.
I mentioned before, sometimes it'll stick on your beater, and this is a sign that the butter is still just a little bit on the cool side, okay? But that's alright. It's okay. Don't worry about that. It's still going to work out alright, because as this beats it, it will warm it. Actually forcing it right here. It's the advantage of one of these machines. Now, so you will know a lot of cakes do start out this way. You're going to cream together butter and sugar. So that's not unusual. Be very careful about doing that right there when it's running, because it can pull your spatula in and break it. Never get your hand in there when it's running. Continue to cream this until it's nice and soft. As I mentioned, my butter was a little bit cold. See the texture right now. Yeah, still a little bit cool side, but it's softening nicely. We are there. Creamed our butter and sugar together. Now once again I'm just pulling down off the sides. So when I start my next portion, where I need it. Now what I want to do next is to put my other ingredients in, and I'm going to alternate them. I'm going to use a little bit of flour and a little bit of milk. And we're just going to rotate one ingredient after another. Careful with that flour. I'm going to go ahead and get my vanilla in right now, all of it. Notice as I work that flour in, sometimes it'll want to kick it out. That's the reason we're putting it in slowly. If you dump it in all at once, it's going to throw it everywhere. Now I have all of my ingredients in it, but we haven't fully mixed it yet. What I want to do is to break anything that's on the edge of the pan, up above and down below, free. So, sometimes the beater doesn't hit the bowl completely near the bottom, and this is on most any kind of mixer. So you'll need to break free whatever's down there. Okay. Make a bit of a mess at times, but that's okay. That's part of the fun of baking. Plus, somebody gets to lick that. That oven to be turned on. You want it at 325 degrees. Looking beautiful. It's looking exactly the way this particular batter should look. It should have something of a slightly grainy appearance to it when you look at it closely. And it isn't actually grainy, it's just the butter is broken slightly from the rest of the mix, which is exactly what you want. See if we can catch that texture on camera. Do you see this? How it's just sort of slightly grainy. It's not totally smooth like a lot of cake batters that you see. For this particular cake, that's exactly perfect. I'm going to mix it one more time, just lightly, and then we're going to put it down in our bundt pan. Take notice of the fluff and the structure at the top, how it looks light and fluffy. And that is because it is. You see the swirls in the solution now? That is a perfect pound cake mix right there. Now let's go on and get it into our bundt pan. Let's see here. Now I like to remove the bulk of what's on my beater, but I'm not going to just get too ridiculous about it. And remember, before you go and give this to the kids to lick, that there is raw egg in that, so if the eggs are good and fresh, I guess you might want to at least take that into consideration. Our bundt pan. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can spoon it into the bundt pan or you can pour it. In this case, we are going to actually do the pouring on it. Beautiful pound cake batter. Now, I can simply scrape the rest of the bowl out and put it in with my spatula, which works well on the last part. Just working it over the top. I can't wait. This is one cake that has an absolutely heavenly flavor. Now let's just gently work it down. And what we're doing here is we're just leveling it, making it even. And remember, this top part here isn't so terribly important. It is, after all, going to be the bottom of the cake. However, I like it to be nice and even and smooth. Okay, it is ready to go in our oven at 325 degrees, and we're going to be baking that guy for approximately 1 hour. Now, 1 hour, 10 minutes for low altitude, about an hour, 25 minutes for higher altitudes. you know, around 3,000, 4,000 feet, and then higher altitudes above that. Of course, you guys already know how to compensate for your recipes. So, there we go, chocolate pound cake in the oven. Now we have our cake all ready to go in our oven, 325 degrees. There we go. Now we just give it time. Go ahead and set your timer. You want to set that for about an hour, and to check it at about that point, and we're going to use the toothpick test. Well, we are here. My neighbor is serenading me with his guitar. It was very sweet of him. And I want to check this. My toothpick comes out clean. Now I checked it after 1 hour and there was still just a little bit of liquid batter on my toothpick. But this time, it's only 10 minutes after that, it's an hour and 10 minutes, and nothing on the toothpick. So that's fully cooked. I can turn my oven off. And I'm just going to let this cool on a cooling rack until it has sunken down and has come down to about room temperature or just a little warmer. And then we're going to transfer it over to another dish. Now I have just inverted this onto this plate. Now, so you'll know how that happened. All I did was take the plate that I wanted to turn it onto, and I put it upside down on the punt pan, and I turned them over together. And when I did that, I could hear it drop. So I need to just remove the pan, and there we go. There's a few little spots that stuck. See that? This is what I'm telling you. Even on a non-stick pan, you'll get that. And if I was looking for a perfectly smooth crust, that would have really disappointed me. However, I'm not, because I'm going to be glazing this. So that's not going to be a problem, but we have a beautiful bundt cake here. Now all I have to do is put my topping on this and we're ready to go. To make a simple chocolate glaze for a cake, you need 3/4 of a cup of semi-sweet chocolate morsels, 1 tablespoon of white or clear if you prefer corn syrup, 3 tablespoons of butter that has been cubed, and 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now what I'm going to do is I have a pan right over here, and we're going to do what's known as a classic double boiler, and that is where you simply take a pan with some water in it, and I have about an inch of water in the bottom of this pan. And I'm going to simply place this bowl right above it. The pan itself is going to slowly come up in temperature. Now what I need to do is place in my morsels. Let me get a spatula here to make this easier. The butter. It all goes in the double boiler at the same time, except for this. And we're going to put it in right at the end. Let's get the corn syrup down in here. Remember, it's only a tablespoon. Now this isn't the bad stuff that you read about on labels, which is the high fructose corn syrup. This is just the normal corn syrup used for baking. Alright? Common ingredient. The high fructose corn syrup is the stuff that you have to kind of watch out for. It's extremely high in calories. And what you want to do is simply combine these until it's fully combined together. There we are. We can see the bowl just a little easier, if you'll notice. And you don't have to go out and purchase a double boiler. You sure don't. All you have to have is just a pan that you can put a bowl on top of, and boom, you've got a double boiler. The idea there is you just want to heat something gently, so you're using the steam or the heat that's coming off of the water to take care of that. And you don't really want it to boil, because if we do, then that's going to bring the temperature up too high. I only want to melt this. I want to melt the butter and the chocolate and the syrup together. No more. Now I have my burner at the moment on a medium high. Getting a little melting, not a lot. As I'm always saying, have you a glass of something to drink around. Enjoy your time in the kitchen. It's getting there. And the idea behind this glaze and the butter and everything we're putting in it is what we want is for our chocolate to not set up and become firm again. We want it to remain kind of soft on top of our cake, and that way it makes it sliceable and easy to work with. If you notice, I pulled the pan up off of it. I don't want it getting too hot too quickly. I simply want to melt it and no more. And it's very close. Now, as it is becoming smooth, as I see here, I want to put that vanilla in it. The vanilla is just to make it a little more rich. There we go. I can turn my burner off. As my glaze is now made, okay? It's warm, it's melted, it is smooth and satiny. Look at that. Shiny. It's exactly what I need. Okay. Now, back to our bunt. Let's pull it on up a little closer here. And I'm simply going to take this and drizzle it straight down over the bunt cake. And we're going to pour it right onto it. And you don't have to be any too polite or pretty about this. There's really no right or wrong of it. There we go. And you want some of it to run down in different areas. You don't want it to be too even. And this way it has a lovely appearance, very random in its effect. Alright. Now, while the glaze is still hot, I want to go ahead and top it off with the nuts. There we have it. A beautiful glaze, nut topped. It's just that simple. Don't make it any harder than this, and that's going to make a lovely display. Well, now that wasn't very difficult at all, was it? Beautiful chocolate bunt cake. I'll tell you what, let's give this thing a try, but before I cut this, I think you should come up a little closer. Let's take a close-up look at the green of the cake. Alright, now, slice into it here. Right here. nice thick slice. First slice is always the hard one to remove. But there we have it. Beautiful, even grain. Gorgeous. There we have it. Now I have my cake. Oh, yes. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today, the show where you can get great recipes and the best techniques are taught. Please subscribe to Texas Cooking Today, where you will always find something hot and ready to eat.